Work for the Snowy Hydro 2.0 project will begin soon, with environmental approval expected shortly. It's a multi-billion-dollar, highly complex engineering project to put a new power station deep underground in the Snowy Mountains. And big questions hang over the future of the ambitious plan, given the engineering challenges and political paralysis over energy policy. Political reporter Melissa Clark has more.
It's an ambitious plan. What it aims to do is take two reservoirs that are already part of the original Snowy Hydro scheme and have Snowy Hydro, when wind and solar energy is producing more power than is required, buy that cheaply, use that power to pump water from the lower dam, Talbingo, up to the higher dam, Tantangara, and then when there is not enough wind and solar power being generated, or when there's peak demand, like during recent heat waves, they can then send that water back down through the tunnel, through turbines, and generate power that it can contribute to the grid. So the idea is that it would match the renewable energy and do what they call firming it up. That means that when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, pumped hydro can fill that gap in the meantime. It makes it a viable alternative to coal-fired power generation for base load power. Now, this Snowy Hydro project has seen the support of experts. Snowy Hydro itself is obviously very keen for it to proceed, but those who've been looking at how to make a renewable energy future see Snowy Hydro 2.0 as critical and in the future a much more economic option than other alternatives like batteries. Dr. Matthew Stokes from the ANU Energy Change Institute is one of those who's been looking at those comparisons.
When we compare that to the big battery in South Australia, we're talking storing 4,000 times more energy than we can in that battery. So if you look at it on a pure power basis, just connecting the two together, for 2 gigawatts, that's pretty expensive. But what we're getting out of this is a whole week's worth of storage. And that's something that's going to be really hard to find in the future market.
So, Melissa, what is standing in the way of Snowy 2.0 going ahead?
Well, the exploratory work should begin soon. They need environmental approvals, which should happen, given it's been declared a critically important national infrastructure project. But there are other two key issues here, engineering and economics, as the former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull used to say. The engineering challenges are enormous for this. It's going to require a 26-kilometre long pipeline travelling underground in the Snowy Mountains. That power station there will need to be in a cavern nearly 850 metres below the surface of the earth, and that cavern is going to need to be as tall and as long as the Sydney Opera House, although a bit narrower, and it's through very difficult geological terrain. There's about 5 different rock types, including some very soft porous rocks, and we don't exactly know how much that's going to cost, because we don't really know what rocks are there until this exploratory work is done. So that's the first challenge. The second is the economics. It relies on Snowy Hydro being able to buy that renewable energy cheap enough to be able to then make it a viable prospect when it wants to sell it in times of demand. And details of that business case have been kept commercial in confidence. So that's not something that we've been able to scrutinise closely.
Melissa, there's been a succession of energy policies from Canberra killed off because of political infighting. So will this project survive?
Well, it has a better chance than most for a couple of reasons. One is that the market is charging ahead with renewable energy as we speak. The fact that so much wind and solar farm development is going on in this policy vacuum that we currently have means that it does need to be firmed up, and that requires storage. And your options are pumped hydro or battery, and pumped hydro at the moment is a much more viable option. It will need Commonwealth approval because the Commonwealth is the sole shareholder of Snowy Hydro, so they will have to be convinced that the economics and engineering of the project stack up. At the moment, both the major parties are enthusiastic but non-committal. What's killed a lot of the other policies, the CPRS, the ETS, the NEG, has been a few vociferous opponents, and in this case we don't have any, so it may well survive for those reasons. But they're still hedging their bets from both the major parties. Let's hear from their respective spokesmen.
We're doing the work right now to see if we can make it stack up. There's a lot of reasons for why it should stack up, but ultimately the numbers have got to add up. Taxpayers have got to get a good deal out of this, or else we won't proceed.
I've been through the feasibility material in detail. I believe economically it will stack up. So I'm sure that our team will see the data and be happy with it, but that's a matter for the leadership group. And they're reserving their decision in that respect until they see that data and the business case.
So the market certainly sees that there's a place for Snowy Hydro 2.0. It seems like the politicians might just be willing to back this one in, but the exploratory works that are coming up will be critical in determining the future of Snowy 2.0.
Melissa, thank you. The federal seat of Kooyong in